Okay, so I just filmed this entire video and my mic was off. So this is gonna be even more rambly than it was before because I kind of have my thoughts all laid out and now I don't. Hello. So welcome to my channel. If you have not been here before, I'm Blake the Book Eater and I'm very bad at uploading. Ask my other subscribers, they will tell you that I'm really bad. I will get better. I'm actually in the process of moving right now, which is why there's boxes everywhere, why I'm not in my usual space. So it's kind of crazy, but I just wanted to get this video out because I feel like I have to, because if I don't, I'm never gonna do it. So here it is, my review of the entirety of Naruto. Now I mentioned in my last update that I had gotten about halfway through Naruto, but I'm just gonna use this time to talk about Naruto as a whole. So if you didn't watch my last video, that's fine. You're all good. Sorry, again, I'm a little all over the place because I'm trying to reorganize my thoughts into the way that I had them. So I think overall, let's talk first about characters. So, because characters I think are the heart of Naruto and the reason why so many people love Naruto. And so for context, I binge read all 700 chapters, all 72, 74 volumes or whatever, in like the span of about 2 months. So I am a little bit crazy in how fast I read, especially when I'm really into something. And because I read it so fast, I didn't spend years with these characters like I know a lot of other people did. And then like especially with the anime, because the anime is like years and years and years, and there's lots of filler arcs and more chances for the side characters to shine and things like that. But so I don't feel like I'm as attached to a lot of the characters as I should be. And yeah. So I will have to say that overall, I think Naruto was probably my favorite character. And I know that's, you know, boring to say because he is the main character. But like, there was something just so fascinating about the way that he just, you know, was so determined, especially when it came to Sasuke. We'll get to Sasuke. So with Naruto, you know, just his drive and like desire to be Hokage, and like with his friends, and it was just inspiring. And you know, I can really see how Naruto has become such a staple of like anime and culture as a whole, because the character is just really, really well written and really good. Now for the other two members of the cell, Sasuke. I'm sorry, I don't like Sasuke. I really wanted to like Sasuke, okay? Don't get me wrong. I love my like brooding emo manga boys. Like just look at Aki from Chainsaw Man and Gyu from Demon Slayer. I love them. But Sasuke was just so one note, and I'm like, there is a little bit of depth given to him, especially towards the last third of Naruto, but even then, he is never the most interesting member of his family or his ancestors. His brother Itachi, by far the better character, way more intriguing and fascinating, and when you actually learn about his motivations and reasons why he's doing what he's doing, it makes sense and it's just really compelling. Sasuke, every time he had like a motivation, it like didn't make sense, or it was just very like one note. Like I didn't believe it. I didn't buy it. Like Sasuke kept doing a lot of things and I just was like, I know why you're doing them, but I don't really like feel like it makes sense. I feel like Sasuke was just kind of like the character who was in it for the plot. Him, and then the friggin' snake guy who, Orochimaru. Both felt very one note to me, and every other kind of antagonistic figure in the series was much, much better. Now, with Sakura, like, she had promise, okay? Like, she was annoying at first, just like Naruto was annoying at first. But you know, Naruto, we peeled back the layers, we learned more about him, and so to me, Naruto got not annoying very fast. Sakura, also pretty much the same, like in the beginning, just because of how hung up on Sasuke she was. That was really annoying to me because I was like, can we give her something more to do? And then I think around volume like 30, she has this amazing fight sequence with like the puppet master, and it's awesome. And I was like, Sakura's really coming into her own. She's gonna be such a great character. Like she's grown up. She's like really developing. Almost all the characters after the time skip, I think, are better than they were in the beginning of the series. But for Sakura especially. And then she like disappears from the story for like, I don't know, another 20 volumes until like the final volume, until the final fight. And so it just felt like really, I don't know, rough, because I felt like I was just starting to like her, and then she was like almost written out of the story completely. And you know, there are good moments with Sakura and all three of the cell, the main cell, like towards the end, like in the final battle. But even then, they don't hit as hard as I feel like they should, because the only character I really cared about within the three of them was Naruto. So yeah, that's how I feel about the main characters. I will give a special shout out to my boy Rock Lee. I love that guy. Probably one of the best side characters in Naruto. I loved Gaara. Kakashi. Please don't kill me in the comments. Kakashi was great. Very, very fun. Great backstory, and especially a lot of things that he did in the final battle, I loved. Jiraiya, I loved. Tsunade, I loved too. So there was a lot of like really good characters, but I think overall I didn't feel as strongly attached to them as I wanted to. So they would show up, and it was like awesome when they would show up here and there, but like I never really got that like depth from all of the side characters. The villains, however, were really, really fleshed out, and really well done, especially in the second half of Naruto. I'm talking specifically about Pain, Madara. Like a lot of these villains in the second half were just written really, really well, and especially because, at least for me, one thing that was kind of weak in the beginning of Naruto was the world building, because it didn't really make a lot of sense. And then, you know, in kind of like the middle third of Naruto, you're starting to get a little bit more information about the lore, about the power systems, about the mythology, and it starts to really become fascinating. And especially with the introduction of like the secret group, the Akatsuki, like they were so awesome and elevated the series so much. And so that just like, the plot and the world building really just started to feel cemented and more tangible, especially in the second half of Naruto. And so it was just really fun to read. And a lot of the fight sequences were really, really well illustrated. Like, I personally, I like the quieter moments as well as like the big fight moments, and Naruto didn't really have a lot of those. So again, I wish we could have used more characterization, but a lot of the characterization actually came through the fights. And so when that happened, it was really, really well done. I definitely have a couple of like fights that are like listed like as my favorites, and I definitely went on YouTube and watched some of the fights, like the anime versions of the fights, after like there was something I was like, I need to see this animated. And surprisingly, sometimes the animation was better, but then sometimes the manga fights were better in my opinion. So I don't really know if I would recommend reading the manga over watching the anime. I know some people only watch anime and don't read the manga. I've also heard that the anime for Naruto is like 40% filler. So the manga is tighter in that regard, even though it is 70 volumes. Now, I know I'm getting a little rambly. The two biggest critiques I have about Naruto, just the series as a whole, I think the Chunin exam arc at the beginning of the series, I was not a huge fan of. I felt like it really dragged. I understand that, you know, existed for us to get to know who the side characters were and what their power sets were, and just to establish like what they could do. And so that was cool, but it went on way too long, and I definitely was a lot slower reading that arc than like towards the end, where I read like 10 volumes in one day, like for a couple days in a row. And so, and with the final arc, I will have to say, so the war arc lasts like about, I don't know, like 20 volumes, which is insane. And it was compelling, it was really good. However, there was definitely moments where it felt long. Like it definitely started to drag a little bit, especially, I'm not gonna spoil anything because I'm not gonna just drop huge series spoilers in this video, but there was a couple like reveals and things where I was just like, can we wrap this up? I'm ready for this to be over. And you know, again, that might be me binge reading over the span of 2 months, as opposed to, you know, waiting for 1 volume every 3 months, or like watching the anime over the course of 15 years. Like that wasn't me. I read it so fast. So in that case, that might just be, you know, more me than somebody who had like grown up with the series. But again, I feel like a series should stand on its own, like even if you just binge read it, because I really got like the sense of the bigger picture pretty fast. And I do feel like if I went back and read Naruto again, I feel like I would like the first half of Naruto a little bit more, just knowing a lot of the context about the creatures and the lore and the mythology and the eyes and all that stuff. Because it did get very confusing. There were so many different power sets that were just like whipped out, and there were some, especially like the stuff with the eyes, really hard to keep track of what exactly certain eye powers did. To be honest, I still don't know. Like the sage summoning stuff and like the creature, like, and the beasts, like that stuff like mostly made sense, but all this stuff with the eyes, I was just kind of like, every time Sasuke was like, I have a new eye, or I upgraded, but I was like, okay, cool. Great. Like, I don't know. And I don't want to sit here and like nitpick everything, because I know that a lot of with these long-running anime or manga series, they don't necessarily have an outline or a plan for, you know, 20 years or whatever, because a lot of times it's like, you know, if it sells well, they'll keep, you know, they do it story arc by story arc and then fill in things as it happens. So I'm not like criticizing them in that aspect, because I know, you know, Dragon Ball definitely takes a hard left turn once it hits kind of like the Z era, and that was not foreshadowed or planned at all. It was very much just like a, let's see how we can fit this in and change things and make it different. And so for like Naruto kind of does that too, with some aspects, with varying degrees of success. So overall, would I recommend that you read Naruto? I can't speak to watching the anime. My brother is doing that. He says it's great. He swears by it. But that's not what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm here to talk about the manga. And I would recommend it. I would say it is long, 70 volumes or 72 volumes, whatever. It's definitely nothing to, you know, it's long, okay? But I think just at least for me, like I read manga so fast that it didn't necessarily feel as long as it actually was. You know, reading, so there's about 200 pages per volume, about 70 volumes. It's like 1,400 pages of manga. So that's a lot of pages. That's a lot of pages. Actually, I did my math wrong. Don't quote me. I'm a reader. I don't do math. But anyways, so the point is, it's a lot of pages. But it doesn't necessarily feel that way. Also, it feels very accomplished when you finish an entire like series that was, you know, over 15 years long, and you're able to do it in less than half a year. Or if you take a full year to do it, who cares? Like, you could read a chapter a day, you could read a volume a day. It's very doable, and Naruto is one of those series that, like, I think that you could definitely pick up and put down, and it wouldn't, because, okay, like, for example, something like Demon Slayer, you know, it has like a couple very well-defined arcs. It's also very fast-paced. Even something like Dragon Ball, very set arcs, like beginning, and like you know when you're starting a new arc, you know when you're ending an arc. Naruto, I would say, blurs the lines a little bit, where you're never exactly sure when you're kind of entering a new arc. You're kind of sure, because things start to shift, but it's very organic, and it's not like a clear, like, we are now in a different arc. We are now in a different era. The only exception being the time jump, because that is a very clear, distinction. But so I think overall you can definitely like read a couple volumes of Naruto, go to something else, and then come back and like read a couple more. It's still going to be there. It's going to be there for a long time. The way I read it mostly was through, I have one of the box sets, but mostly I just read through the Viz app, Viz Shonen Jump, and it's like $2 a month, and you have access to like their entire library. So it's really easy because you can just swipe on your phone, read a chapter very fast. So yeah, I think with how accessible the series is, with how popular the series is, if you're curious at all, it's definitely worth checking out. And there are some great moments. Like I would say Naruto overall, for me at least, it's a good series with a lot of like really great moments that don't really work outside the context. Like you can't just like watch a fight or read the fight or like see a moment and like have it have the same emotional impact, because you don't have context of everything else that's going on. Like it might be a little bit cool, but you would be like, I don't understand why this is like one of the best. Whereas like you're reading it and you're like, that moment just hits different. And Naruto definitely has a lot of great moments like that. And so I would definitely recommend Naruto in that way, just because those moments I think are definitely worth getting to. They're definitely worth exploring. But at the same time, if you're not really like intrigued by the concept of Naruto, if it's not something you want to pick up, you could miss it. So like Naruto for me, I think overall I would give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It is a good series with great moments. That's where that 0.5 is like for all those moments that are great, that makes me want to push it to a 4, push it to a 4.5. But just like as a whole, also because a lot of the characters didn't really stick with me as much as I wanted to. There are definitely series that are shorter. There are series that I've read like a year ago, 2 years ago, and I still think about those characters from the manga or the anime. Whereas like Naruto, I just finished like a month and a half ago, and I rarely think about those characters. And so I think the staying power is kind of as much as you give it, as much as it connects with you. And that's the thing. I can sit here and review this series, and I can talk about like, how I feel about it. But the thing is, especially with manga, I think more so than any other, like, books, you can definitely have strong feelings about characters. You can have strong feelings about the story, for sure. But I feel like with manga, because you see the characters, you see their emotions, you can definitely get a lot more attached to characters in a way. If you're a very empathetic reader. I'm a very empathetic reader, so I tend to get very attached to manga characters, especially because I feel like I see them, I understand them. A lot of the times you're inside their heads and their thoughts, and so and like you're seeing their expressions, and like the art is beautiful, and so like that's why I love this medium. It's just great. It's really fun. So again, like something that might not work as well for me might exactly be the perfect thing that works for you. So I would say, if you're interested in Naruto, if you've made it through this whole video, number one, thank you. I'm sorry I'm rambling. My thoughts are all over the place. I'm moving. It's a nightmare. But yeah, I would pick up Naruto. Read a couple chapters, read a couple volumes, see if it's for you. And if you start to like what you're reading, I would say continue, because the second half of the manga, even like the last 2/3 of the manga, are genuinely really, really great, with a lot of great moments peppered throughout. But overall, good. So it is not bad. It's never boring, at least in my opinion, and there's a lot of stuff to enjoy. So that is going to wrap up my series review of Naruto. I know I missed a lot. I did not go into specifics about arcs or a lot of the minor characters, so let's talk about it in the comments. So If you want to, you know, talk about some of your favorite arcs, about your favorite characters, your favorite moments, please do so down below, and I will engage with you guys because I want to hear your thoughts and opinions about like more specific things, and then I can detail some of my thoughts there because my brain is a pile of fried mush right now, and also this video is probably long as is. So good night, goodbye, see you soon, bye.